I don't want to get bogged down in the details and make this story way too long, because it's already going to be really difficult to explain. Back in the late 1980s to early 1990s, I was a fire lookout in a national park in Idaho that, I am not going to name. If you don't know what that is, then basically, people would volunteer to stay up in these big lookout towers for a certain amount of time. Usually for me, it would be a summer placement, but some people would man them at different times of the year. The job was to watch in the distance and be on the lookout for anything that could cause a fire. You also had to manage the people that would be hiking through and report any suspicious activity, etc. That's just a very basic gist. I imagine most will already be familiar with this job role, although I think some people call it Firewatch or something nowadays. I wasn't an inexperienced guy. I had done this for around 3 years in a row by the time this happened, and although it could be incredibly boring and isolating at times, it was a good way to make some extra money, quite a lot of extra money actually. The pay back then was not bad at all for the work that you had to do. We would have roll calls over the radio every morning and at various points throughout the day. Without hiking for multiple hours, depending on how isolated your tower was, these radios were your only point of contact with anyone else, and this is why you always had to be fully ready. In my case, my tower was probably around an hour from the nearest person, so if I ever got into trouble, the motto would always be to delay and defuse. Sometimes you get troublemakers coming through. We have even had hunters illegally trying to poach on the land, and let me tell you, that can get hairy. Out in the middle of nowhere, with backup miles away, and you have to tell a guy or even multiple guys with a high-powered rifle that they need to stop and leave, or that you will call the cops. Yeah, it's really scary stuff. My boss, I think by that point, he had worked in the same national park for I think around 20 years. He told me that when he was a rookie, that one of these poachers actually shot at him when he called out for them to stop. He said that he actually felt the air displacement as the bullet shot above his head. The bullet took out some of the fabric on the very top of his hat, and he had to duck out of there immediately. Those guys were apprehended later by the police, thankfully. Cops not being useless. I suppose there really is a first time for everything. Let me move on to my story. I spent most days just scouting with my binoculars, recording weather patterns down in my journal, noting people passing by, and just reporting into home base. We are allowed brief breaks every now and again, which I've used to stretch my legs and scout around the area. I even helped a couple who had no idea where they had ended up. I got pretty much no action aside from that though. That was until around 3 weeks into the job. This one night, I was up pretty late, and I could not sleep at all. I was a pretty young guy at the time, and I was feeling kinda homesick. It was a bit of an alien feeling being so far away from home or any family and not being able to just call them. You can call me a pussy, but whatever. So I was just sitting there, looking off into the mass of trees towering around and some brush, when I noticed a flicker of light off in the distance. At first, I thought someone had turned on a flashlight that was pretty high powered, until I noticed that the color was much too dark for that to be the case. What I saw was almost certainly a flame, just like a little spark, probably no larger than a finger. I kept seeing it happen, but it was like it was darting around and would only ever last for a second or two. I was scared and called it in, and a note was made of it, but because nothing actually happened, my superior thought that maybe I was just tired and that my eyes were playing tricks on me. The next night, I was tired again. I did not sleep the night before because I was terrified the entire force would go up under my watch, and I did not want to be the guy to blame. This time, I didn't just see a flicker. I actually saw this ball floating around, like this actual spherical shape. It was floating around, veering past trees, but nothing it went near ever set alight. It was literally a big ball, but it had like flames all around it. It was definitely burning. That much I could see for sure. And it seemed to, I don't know, draw animals towards it. There were deer and other animals in the area, but of course, they tend to stay away from humans, so I would never see them very much by my tower, since not only was I there and making noise, but a lot of people took this path during the day and evening time. But when this ball appeared, and it appeared a couple of nights in a row, mind you, these deer would slowly creep up into the area, and I would not notice them at all until they were completely illuminated by the ball of fire. They would just stare and follow it around, but they never got close enough to touch it. I saw flies and other bugs fly around it too, but I never saw them fly back away. I was terrified and mesmerized all at the same time. I should not have done this, but I had to go and see. I left my tower without telling anyone. I still had an hour or so before roll call. I don't know quite how to describe the feeling when I walked into those woods and got within the vicinity of this ball or orb. I felt almost weightless. I felt like I was floating. And weirdly enough, I felt a kind of a pull. I felt like I wanted to touch this thing, to get closer. I actually had a voice inside my head, my own voice, actively telling me to go up and touch this thing. I didn't do that, of course, but boy did I want to. I wanted to feel it. I don't know. It was like an irresistible urge. At one point, I stepped on a twig or something, and it made a pretty loud crack sound, and I drew a lot of attention towards me. The second that sound echoed through the trees, it was like each and every deer. There were probably around 3 of them, all following this thing. They all looked over at me in an instant. And this ball or orb of flames, it went out completely. I heard this sound like glass cracking, and the orb instantly stops floating in the air and just drops to the ground. The flames just dissipate in an instant, and it's not on fire anymore. It's just nothing. After this, that feeling inside my head and my body is gone, and I am now shit scared. When I first creeped up here, I didn't feel scared at all. I just felt curiosity. I felt the desire to get closer. But now, the gravitational feeling has been replaced by pure dread, and I'm wondering why the hell I'm here. I'm wondering why the hell I left my tower when I really should not have. While the thing was still on fire, it was like I could not think rationally. I couldn't control my thoughts or tell myself to leave. It was like I was half on autopilot, and all of my thoughts just kept circling back around to this orb, anything to do with this orb. Then I heard a noise coming from not far away in the trees. I heard the sound. Think of a cat yowling when it fights another cat, but way deeper and much more hoarse. That is the sound that I heard, and it was loud too. It felt like it was being done right in my ear, right next to me. The deer all fled pretty quickly at the sound of this, and I wanted to run, but I also still wanted to grab the ball and see what it was. I shuffled forward as quietly as I could, but every damn step that I took was still way too loud. When I got to where the orb fell down, I noticed that it wasn't even there anymore. There was literally just a pile of ash where it dropped down, and when I looked upwards after being in disbelief, I got the shock of my life. Just across from me, standing up really tall, were 2 glowing eyes. They looked almost orange, and they were glowing in the darkness. And then I could see exactly what it was, because there was a flame once again, lighting up everything around me in a small area. The flame, it was coming from this thing's hand. Its hand was like a human, as far as I could tell, except that the hand, the arm, the face, the entire fucking body was a charred black color, like it was a human who had been roasted alive in an oven for hours and hours. It was tall, probably around 6 feet tall. I could see that bits of its skin around its face and arms were really coarse and almost peeling off, but still fused together at the same time. It's really hard to explain. It was not wearing any kind of clothes. It was just charred, top to bottom, and it had this flame coming from its hand. Like, the whole hand was just a light, with no visible source of where the fire could be coming from. Its mouth was sealed shut. It never opened it up. The only thing visible were those eyes boring into me, and it had its head turned to the side like a dog would. I turned and I ran as fast as I could. But after a minute or so, I was sweating, like really, really sweating. It felt like the heat had been turned up tenfold. I can feel the earth pounding behind me, and I can hear something running incredibly fast. While I was running, I never even turned to look back. I didn't dare to. I was much too frightened. But then out of nowhere, I feel pressure near my ankle, and then all of a sudden, I am knocked firmly onto my ass. Something had grabbed my leg, or rather, this thing had grabbed my shoe. I turned slightly and shuffled away backwards while flat on my ass, and I saw that this thing was prone, still with its head turned to the side, and it must have dived to grab me. My shoe was actively smoldering in its hand. I could see the steam coming up from it, and within seconds, I could smell the smell of burning leather, and it was horrible. This thing's eyes looked even bigger now somehow. I felt like my skin was going to peel off with how hot I felt with this thing next to me. I got up and I ran again. And the thing, I don't think it even bothered to chase me this time. I did not call it in once I got back to my tower, because who would believe me? There was no fire, and people already thought I was going crazy from isolation and wasn't fit to do my job. I needed this money. I just needed to ride out another couple of weeks. I was just going to stay in my tower, no matter what. I was not going to let curiosity get me again. Luckily for me, I packed a spare pair of hiking shoes to contrast my comfortable leather ones, so luckily I did not have to walk around barefoot for the rest of the time like an idiot. But yeah, I wish that was the last time that I saw the thing. I noticed those flames again and again over the next couple of days. I even saw the orb again, but I never saw the Charred Man. That was until a couple of days after the first Charred Man encounter. I saw the orb in my area once again. It floated around for a while, and I noticed that it only attracted a single deer this time. After a while, I saw the orb go out and lose its flame and drop to the ground, but the deer did not run away and suddenly regain its senses like last time. I could not really see all that much for the next minute or so. Then, out of nowhere, there was just a sudden explosion of flames. Something had just gone up, and really quickly too. It was like something was doused in gasoline and just received a spark. That's how quickly the flames appeared. I could see the Charred Man again because of the flames lighting up the area. He was just standing there with his same hand burning. And next to him, set completely ablaze, was a deer. The deer had flames over its entire body, like it was an aura just engulfing the thing. I called it in immediately. I told them that there was something on fire, that it was an animal, and everyone was just confused. I didn't have time for the questions. I was just shouting and in a panic over the radio. I just told them that we needed fire service immediately, and then that was it. I got out of my tower and got down there to see what the hell was going on. The deer stopped for a second and stood directly beside the Charred Man. Then, after a second, it just starts running after the Charred Man made a gesture. I can see that it's running in the direction of my tower, running faster than I've ever seen a deer run before. Before I realized what was going on, this thing was not far away from me, and it was charging me. I tried to run a little bit and change directions, but it was like this thing was locked on, like it was a missile. It had this weird glint in its eyes. Usually, deer eyes are really large and brown, but these things looked tinted almost orange, and it looked like the pupils had shrunk considerably. I could not get out of the way. This deer hit me full force into the chest, and I was lucky I did not end up with more than a couple of cracked ribs by the end of it. The deer never even stopped once it hit me, but it also did not circle back to try and attack me again. It was like the thing was just possessed. It kept charging in an exact straight line and did not stop until it collided headfirst with my lookout tower, and then it just hit the ground and never got back up. The wooden leg of the lookout tower went up even faster than I could comprehend. I didn't have anywhere near the supplies to put the thing out. That deer was just slumped up in a ball and was burning. It still had the flames all around it, but I couldn't smell it was burning. Maybe the smell of wood going up cancelled out the smell of the deer, but I never smelt the smell of burning meat. I tried to get close to the thing, but the heat was way too much. It was overwhelming on my skin, and I almost felt some of the tiny hairs on my arms start to singe. I had to sit there and just wait like a useless idiot until the fire service showed up and put out the mess. Cue a lot of really awkward questions. How does a deer set on fire? There is no reasonable answer to that whatsoever. The most I could give is that I saw a weird man in dark clothes messing around with matches of some kind, and that's why I saw flickers and sparks a few days prior. I got a lot of funny looks. I was just trying to make myself seem less incompetent, but I guess I just made it worse. Because how ridiculous is the suggestion that a deer not only just let a human get close enough to touch it, but also let the person set it on fire. And the deer would not just go up just from a small little match. There would have to be something to ignite the whole entire body, like what I saw. That deer never stopped burning, by the way. It took the fire service a while, and it did not go out until it was manually put out with water. It never charred or melted, by the way. It should have been black and messed up, but I saw it. When it was put out, it looked as if it had never been near a flame, let alone on fire. Not a single person said a word about that. They all just stayed hush. My tower was a complete wreck. No way I could go back up there. You could smell that horrible smell of burning wood for miles around, and it would have to be completely torn down. There was no saving it. It would take a lot more than just some repairs. I had to be treated by medics and had to rest up for a few days. Cracked ribs take weeks to heal, but no way was my boss letting me get paid for nothing for the rest of my time there. Man, it hurt just to walk around, even just to breathe sometimes. I ended up subbing in for people in various towers so that they could take extended breaks, which meant I had to trek for miles around the entire park with cracked ribs, and it was torture. Aside from that, I did a lot of foot patrols, mainly around the area of my tower, just to check that everything was in order. If I'm honest, I was so lucky that the fire did not spread from my tower. It was like it was localized in just that one spot. My story is almost done, don't worry. I told you it would be long. Fast forward to the final week of me being here. The guy in Tower 6, which is the complete opposite side to the park where my tower was, the guy was injured. He'd radioed in, asking for medical help, telling everyone that a crazy person had attacked him in the woods after he went for a toilet break. I think he gave some bullshit story to the boss about being jumped and beaten, but this man had burns on his legs and on his arms. He had some serious and nasty wounds that had to be treated. I had to sub in for him for a few days while he got treated. I had to take over his tower while he was gone. Again, I don't know what he said to other people, but when he came back to his tower for the last day or two, I got a chance to talk to him properly. He practically begged for me to stay in his tower with him, and my boss okayed it. Here is the story that he told me. So, he had gone into the woods for a piss or something. He had heard footsteps nearby and got annoyed because he was absolutely bursting. It wasn't even nighttime either. I think it was around 3 p.m. or so. He said he called out for the person nearby and announced himself and who he was so as to not scare them. He said that they did not respond whatsoever, and when he rounded the corner, the person, I think it was a lady, was just standing and facing a different direction off in the trees. She was looking at something further into the woods, I think. Something floating that was bright. He said that she walked off towards it and would not listen when he called for her to stop. He said he walked after her and that once she got near the thing, the light was gone, but only for a brief second. He said that he saw the lady standing where the orb had once been, and that there was a hand being placed on her shoulder from something out of view. He said this hand was like charcoal, and that he could see it flaking off in the sunlight. And then boom, just like that, His hand ignited in this lady, and then flames were all over her, coming off of her. He yelped and shouted at her, started telling her to drop and roll on the ground, but he said that she stood there, then turned, and then she just sprinted at him. She was not screaming or even making any pain noises. When he realized that she would not stop, he tried to turn and run, but she grabbed his leg, and he felt his leg burning. He described it as complete agony, and then nothingness once it had burned for a little while. I think maybe his nerve endings had been burned away or something. She apparently wrestled with him for a while. She was not strong, but she was persistent and managed to grab onto his forearm at one point before he could fling her off of him. He did not want to hurt her, especially since she was already on fire, but once he realized what was going on, he kicked her as hard as he could, and because she did not weigh all that much, he said that she went flying. Then he just ran. He made up some bullshit story to the boss. They kept trying to press him on the burn wounds, and he kept saying that he just didn't know, that he probably did it by accident and did not remember. They were really close to sending him home because of him not being mentally fit and having me as a replacement, but they decided against it since there was not long left before we were going to be headed out anyway. They never found the woman. They never found a body. It was written off as some junked up crackhead losing her mind, and I think I was the only one who ever knew the true story, aside from the guy it happened to. I shared my story with him too. I was going to take it to the grave originally, but after hearing his, I figured, why not? It was worth a shot. He believed me. By all rights, he shouldn't have believed me, but he did. So, yeah, that is my story. Take it as you will. I have no proof. All I really want is answers. Even if you don't believe what I encountered, any kind of speculative answers would be great. This was so many years ago now, and I still cannot get the image of that thing out of my head. I don't know what it was or what it wanted. Can anyone tell me what I might have seen? Has anyone else ever encountered anything as strange as this in the woods? Okay, so my story is not paranormal, but it could have had a bad ending. I think I've told it here before though. So I leave my house one night and go to the shop at the top of my street. It's kinda dark outside, but it's also only around 7 p.m. I see a woman walking down the street, just looking at all of the houses as she passes by. It's my mother's friend. She has only been to our place once before, and so she's probably looking around to see which house looks familiar. She looks super spaced out. I've never really known her to take drugs or really even drink at all, so it was a little strange. I go up to her to say hello and tell her which one our house is. As soon as I get up to her and open up my mouth to talk, I realize it is not my mother's friend at all. She looks really taken aback and puts her hand in her handbag. It's pretty awkward to be honest, and I do not want to get pepper sprayed by some crackhead. I just cross over the street towards the shop without saying another single word. I come out of the shop and round the corner back into the street. I can see my house from where I am. I see the woman in my garden, but she is not just in my garden. She is standing up against the window with her hands cupped around her eyes, trying to see inside, but the blinds and the curtains are both closed, so you cannot see anything whatsoever. I turn full coward and I just hide behind a car. I spy on her as she is leaving. I get to my gate and she is near the bottom of the street now. She turns around just as I enter and she starts sprinting at me. Screw this. I run into my house and lock the door. My mother asks me what is going on, but I shush her. I hear the garden gate open and footsteps approaching. I wait for a knock on the door, but nothing happens. At the same time though, I do not hear her leave whatsoever. I peep outside the window and she is nowhere to be seen. Fast forward to the following day, I go back to the shop. All of the papers are by the counter and I am reading the headlines. I see the psycho woman's face from last night on the front page of a local rag. It turned out that she had gone home from work and her husband said that he was leaving her. So she just flipped and stabbed him to death. Then she left the house with a knife in her bag and started stabbing any men that she came across in revenge. Apparently, she stabbed like 4 or 5 people before the police finally caught up with her. Dude, I'm from Australia. In Victoria and pretty much all of the eastern states of Australia are Yowie Country. Yowie is Australian Bigfoot, if you don't know. They always do that damn yowling and screaming bullshit, and they like to check out campsites and other stuff. So, I was 19 years old when this happened to me. I was on this road trip kind of thing with a friend. I was driving a flatbed with a car on the back because it is my friend's sister's car. We are better than FedEx. I am driving down some road that's in the complete middle of nowhere, and it's getting pretty late on. I decide to pull over so I can get some sleep. I decide to climb into my sister's car to sleep so that we each have a car to sleep in. This was just so we all had more space and stuff. Hours later, I am woken up by this awful noise of gurgled screaming coming from all over the place. What the hell? I make sure that the doors are locked, and I text my friend who responds, but we decide to go back to sleep because we do not believe in yowies. We just decide to ignore. We go to sleep. I wake up again for some reason. I check my watch. It's almost 3 in the morning. I hear a sound coming from the back of my car. I sit up from where I am curled across the back seat. I wait for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. There is something on the back of the flatbed outside the car, just hanging on. I am suddenly very afraid. This thing is pretty damn big and dark colored. It's really dark, I don't know. I grab my trusty dolphin torch. I shine that shit through the window. I am an idiot, an absolute idiot. It's a monster. Oh my god, why? It has matted fur with all burrs and shit caught inside of it. It looks like dirt is rubbed in there. There could be stuff growing from it. What the hell is this bullshit? The big hand coming from it is gripping the side of the flatbed. The fingers are huge and gnarled, curling over the edge. The eyes have that weird shiny thing that cats do. What in the fucking fuck? My friend's light comes on from his truck, shining back at us. I hear his window go down. I begin screaming as I realize this thing is trying to haul itself up onto the flatbed. I can hear the sound of a window going back up with a whir. This thing is so tall. My friend starts up the truck and rips away from the thing. It finally lets go after a little while, but it seemed to hold on for quite a long time. We drive for ages until we reach a service station. I pull over so I can change my pants and get back in the truck. So, when this happened to me, I was coming back from a cabin party in high school. I swing by the town's only available fast food, the Lord McDonald himself. It's a good post-moonshine meal. The other 2 people in the vehicle are sober, and I am not driving. I am just riding shotgun. We take the back roads back to town. The brights were needed. It was roughly 2 a.m. I am sober at this point, let me be clear. We come around the corner. We see a young girl on the side of the road. My glare started at her feet. She was barefoot. What the hell is she doing barefoot at this time? She had these ghostly pale legs. I noticed these large blue veins. She has gray short shorts with a tank top. She is pale all the way up. She has dreaded and matted blonde hair. Then it hit me. This feeling of immense dread and primordial fear. I cannot describe in words how frightening her face looked. Her eyes were so black, it literally sucked the light from the brights on the truck. Her jaw is missing. The void is just as black as her eyes. I feel like this thing is gonna snatch me out of the truck as we go by. At this point, my buddy looks at me. He has seen it too. I thought maybe I wasn't sober or something. Anon, what the fuck was that? I just tell him to lock the door and drive. He proceeds to go 90 miles per hour the rest of the way into town. The guy in the back was on his phone. He didn't see a thing. He freaked out though, seeing our reactions, because we have never reacted like that before. Me and my buddy go slightly crazy for the next month or so. Our reality had been shattered. There is some stuff out there. An idiot LARPing scientist cannot convince me otherwise. My cousin had one come up to the door a week before she died.